Hey there. Welcome to episode 84 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is the brand new 6-inch G.I. Joe classified action figures. Now, these ones I'm really excited about. You guys who watch this channel regularly know that I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan. Even though I collect Transformers, Masters of the Universe, Marvel Legends, DC characters, all kinds of stuff, my probably favorite part of geekdom is G.I. Joe. That's what gets me the most excited. That's what I geek out about the most. But it hasn't been a great time for G.I. Joe collecting. The line has been, it's only really been dead for maybe a year and a half. But before that, it was on life support. Hasbro wasn't really putting out G.I. Joe figures at retail. It was really only the G.I. Joe Collectors Club that was still putting out figures, but they were very expensive and they were only available through subscription services and things like that. So it got to be a very expensive hobby to collect G.I. Joes, and we weren't getting very many of them. So, yeah, the future of G.I. Joe was pretty spotty until this past February. There was the annual toy fair held in New York, and that was right before, the whole world shut down. But I did a video where I covered all the big reveals that had me excited from Toy Fair 2020. And the most exciting reveal was that Hasbro revealed they're going to be doing a new 6-inch G.I. Joe line. And that was something that a lot of fans have wanted for a long time, myself included. There's a lot of hardcore G.I. Joe fans that like the smaller 3 3/4 inch figures and weren't interested in this 6-inch line. So there's been a lot of debate amongst the fandom whether we wanted these things, whether we'd ever get them. And yeah, finally, after years of asking, we're finally getting 6-inch G.I. Joes. So they revealed 3 figures. It was Duke, Roadblock, and Scarlet. So they showed us these figures. We knew that we were getting Destro, but they didn't show Destro. And Snake Eyes, it was suspected that Snake Eyes was going to be the 5th and final figure in the wave, because wave 1 was said to be 5 figures. They didn't show us the regular retail release Snake Eyes, but what they did show us is the Hasbro website exclusive Snake Eyes. So this Snake Eyes, he had like a silver visor, and he had some shades of brown and gray in him rather than the full black that we're used to seeing with Snake Eyes. So that deluxe exclusive Snake Eyes also came with a bunch of extra weapons, and he came in a much bigger, elaborate box. And that was only available through Hasbro's website for a limited time. It sold out, I think, within the first day. I managed to put my pre-order in with Hasbro for that figure. I don't think it's supposed to ship out until July, so it'll be a while before I get that Snake Eyes. So then in the months since, they did reveal the Destro, and then they finally revealed that it was just the same Snake Eyes figure, except in solid black, that was going to be coming out in the regular retail release. And the release date of these things was supposed to be June 1st. So I've been eagerly anticipating them because I had them all pre-ordered. I had the first 3 pre-ordered on Hasbro's website along with the exclusive Snake Eyes because they were the first ones to have them up. And then as the other 2 figures were revealed, I had them ordered online from Big Bad Toy Store. So I was hoping these things would all ship out and I'll get them hopefully mid-June. The thing is, though, everybody else online seemed to be getting these things because people were buying them on eBay from Chinese sellers and stuff. So I've already seen a bunch of review videos of these figures, and that was just really kind of eating away at me because I wanted to get my hands on these figures. Everybody was talking about how good they were, and I thought, man, this is going to be a while. And also, I ordered some figures from Big Bad Toy Store, which shipped on April 21st, and I still have not seen those toys yet, and it's June 3rd when I'm shooting this. So, and that's because with the the COVID stuff going on, Canada Post is really backed up with their shipments. It always takes a while for things to get here to Canada from when I order from the US or other places. So yeah, add COVID on top of that, God knows when that package will come. So then I was worried that when the Joes eventually got in stock on the websites, I'd say, please send these to me now. And then it would still take another 2 months plus before I actually had them in hand. So that was kind of a bummer. And then, to my surprise, my local comic book shop got the figures in at the start of June, as they were supposed to. So I went over and I bought all 5 figures. My comic shop, Strange Adventures, had only ordered in 1 set. So luckily I was the first to contact them and I got all 5 figures. And so yeah, I had to go back and cancel all my pre-orders. Mind you, I still have my pre-order up for the exclusive Snake Eyes. But I canceled my pre-orders of all the regular figures. And now I have them in hand. And they are great. I'm really excited about them. So yeah, first I'll show you quickly the figures in package. I filmed this yesterday when I got home with them, and because I was eager to tear them open, so I didn't have time to do this whole video, so I just shot the packaging so I could show you guys, and then we'll take a look at each of the figures individually outside of the packaging. So yeah, let's go. Yo, Joe. So here you see all 5 figures in the first wave of G.I. Joe Classified. So each package is numbered, similar to what we've seen with the Star Wars Black Series. You can see each character's name up here in the corner. You can see Destro. He's the only Cobra character. So his packaging has a different color scheme, and it's got the Cobra logo up in the corner rather than the Joe logo. They've got various symbols here on the sides representing, I think, their various military specialty. So with Scarlett, for example, you see she's got martial arts and like archery. I'm not sure what some of these other things are. Duke, I guess he's got paratrooping. Anyway, I'm not sure what these various symbols mean. Maybe there's an explanation inside. On the other side of the packaging, we've got some unique artwork for each character. Now, some of these I think is brand new artwork, like this, for example, because this Roadblock here, it really depicts him as he appears in the packaging, and he's got his new gun, which is directly related to this toy, so I think this was designed just for him. Whereas some of this other artwork, I believe, is taken from other material. For example, this Scarlet, I recognize the artist as Phil Noto, who has worked on some of the comic books, and I don't know if that was created originally for this packaging, or if they just took that from some existing Noto artwork. This is the top of the packaging, not much to see here. Again, you just see the numbers, you've got the logos for each team, and then you can kind of start to see the window box here from the front. So now let's take a look at each unique package. So first we'll look at Roadblock. He's figure number 1 in the set. So there you get a good view of the figure and all his accessories in the window. And there you've got some nice artwork on the front. So that piece is different than the artwork we got on the side, but it matches up. And yeah, on the back of the packaging, this is pretty generic. So you'll see the same image on the back of all the packages. So it features all the characters that we have in Wave 1. So Duke, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Destro, and Roadblock. And then the other figures in this image are probably good indicators of who we're going to get in Series 2. So we've got Gung Ho, the Baroness, Cobra Commander, we've got some Alley Vipers, and some Red Ninjas. So that is likely the next 5 characters we'll get. Now this artwork also showcases a bunch of different Joe vehicles. Now a lot of people have speculated whether we'll get vehicles. They'd be quite big and quite expensive to make for the 6-inch size figure. So I doubt we'll see any of these big vehicles like tanks and stuff, but I guess time will tell. So figure number 2 is Snake Eyes. So again, we've got some unique artwork there that matches up with this artwork here. Now this design of his costume appears to be based on the look from G.I. Joe Retaliation, the second live-action movie. So again, you see the figure there, through the window, the back, it's got that same generic image, so there's not much to see there. Now it appears as though Snake Eyes has quite a few more accessories than Roadblock. He's got a backpack, a sword, sheath, knife, looks like a pistol, and a gun with a silencer. So lots of accessories in there with Snake Eyes. Next up, figure number 3 is Destro, the only villain we have in the series so far. So again, you get a nice shot of him in the window box. You'll notice that his background is red as opposed to blue on the other characters. And he's got the Cobra logo behind him there. Some nice artwork in the corner. Not too many accessories here for Destro. He's got a gun, a pistol, which I imagine gets holstered on his leg there, and then a suitcase which I believe opens up and has some maybe money or something in there. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. Figure number 4 is Duke. So there's a good shot of Duke. He's got a few accessories there. Backpack, machine gun, pistol, and I'm not entirely sure what that is. Now the artwork on him is pretty different. It looks very kind of 80s comic book style. Like, I like the artwork, and I don't care that they don't match up. I've seen some people online kind of complain that the artwork isn't consistent, but I kind of like that they shook it up and they've got different styles for the different characters. And lastly, we're going to take a look at figure number 5. So this is Scarlet. So again, there's the Phil Noto artwork. I apologize if I perhaps have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's Phil Noto. And there you see she's got her crossbow and 3 different daggers. They all look kind of similar, but they are all unique. And I assume they could probably all fit on her somewhere. She's probably got little sheaths to tuck all those away. And again, the familiar artwork on the back. So there we go. That's the G.I. Joe Classified Wave 1 in the packaging. Now I'm going to open all these guys up and we'll take a look at each one outside of the packaging. So let's start with figure number 1. This is Roadblock. Now we were first introduced to Roadblock in 1984 when he came out in the vintage Real American Hero era of toys. And I have that figure here, but unfortunately, like with most vintage figures, or with a lot of them anyway, the elastic that holds them together has broken. So I can maybe get him to look like he's in one piece, but it might not be easy. And there we go. Nope, give me a minute. So there we go. A display base and a little stick tack in the waist, and he's as good as new. So this is 1984 Roadblock version 1. So he was the G.I. Joe team's heavy weapons specialist. So you can see here he came with a pretty big machine gun, and it came with a tripod which attached on the bottom. Unfortunately, the little thin peg that was supposed to attach to it is broken off, so I can't put the tripod on. He also came with this removable helmet and a backpack. So that was 84 Roadblock, and because it was the first version of Roadblock, that is kind of the iconic look that most people associate with Roadblock. In 2007, when Hasbro launched their 25th anniversary line of G.I. Joes, which we often refer to as the modern era of G.I. Joe, they recreated that 1984 figure, and you see that here. So again, he's got the same outfit. He also came with a big machine gun, which I don't have with him right now. But again, you see removable helmet. He's got that green camo tank top, the brown pants. So there you go. So when we were finding out that we were going to get these 6-inch G.I. Joes, I think a lot of people were hoping that, like the 25th anniversary figures of 2007, the new 6-inch figures would basically be straight homages of the vintage line. So basically a figure kind of like this, just blown up to 6 inches. So we'd have the tank top, the brown pants, and all that stuff. Now, obviously you see that's not what we got. However, this figure doesn't come completely out of left field. This look is based more on 1986's Roadblock version 2. Now this guy's actually still in one piece. There we are. So there you go. Now this Roadblock, all he came with for accessories is a big machine gun with a tripod. No longer did he have a helmet, and he's got this green vest with the red shoulder pad, gray pants. So that's another well-known look for Roadblock. We also got this same look in the modern line. I think it was 2008, 2009 when that came out. I actually don't have that figure because there was so many different figures, so many different variations of every character coming out that I just couldn't be bothered to buy them all. And I always preferred Roadblock's 84 look to his 86 look. So when it came to these figures, I stuck with the 84 look. And to be honest, I wasn't really happy with this figure. I think his proportions just look a little wonky. His head's maybe a little small. I didn't love it. And when they remade that figure, he kind of had the same proportions. And so I just didn't love the base figure. After that, in the modern line, we got a whole bunch of Roadblocks, but they were all based on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because he played him in the second live-action movie, G.I. Joe Retaliation. And we actually didn't get a Roadblock that I loved in the modern era until the G.I. Joe Collectors Club gave us this version of Tiger Force Roadblock, which is based on the third version of Roadblock that came out in the vintage line. So this guy here, removable helmet. But yeah, he's finally appropriately big, and his accessory. So he's appropriately big. He's got a big machine gun with the bullet belt. I like that he's got a removable helmet that fits him a little better than the other ones did. His head's the right size. So yeah, this was a great figure. So it took them quite a few years to get the perfect modern Roadblock, but I think they finally nailed it with this Tiger Force version. So now let's focus on the new classified Roadblock. So this Roadblock doesn't look exactly like any Roadblock that came before it, but you can definitely see that it took inspiration from 1986's version 2. Because this vest, it's pretty much the same color green, and then it's got that red kind of padding or whatever it's supposed to be on the shoulder. So yeah, you can tell that this is Roadblock. Now, the thing I've seen most people beefing about with this figure is the gun. Roadblock has always had the big heavy machine gun, and here he's got some weird kind of space sonic cannon. I don't know what the deal with this is. The thing is, I'm fine with it. I'm not a gun guy by any stretch of the imagination. I do like when you have a realistic looking gun. I didn't like in the later days of the 80s G.I. Joe line when the characters had, pink guns and giant oversized cannons that fired missiles and stuff. They were a little ridiculous. But as far as this goes, I think it's kind of a cool looking gun. If it came with a Marvel character or something like that, I don't think anybody would have any problem with it. It's just the fact that it comes with Roadblock, because G.I. Joe is kind of supposed to be a modern military, so giving them sci-fi weapons kind of rubs some people the wrong way, but I'm fine with it. I think it's a pretty cool gun. Now, I didn't really go over his accessories in the package like I did with the other guys. So the three things he had in the package was this big gun. He has this little knife that can be sheathed here on his vest. And then the third thing he had in his package was just this ammo clip, which can be removed from the gun. You pop it in there, and it stays in pretty good. It's pretty tight, so you don't have to worry about that dropping out and falling all over the place. So I'm fine with the gun. Now, as for the design of the figure, I think it's pretty great. I didn't really want a redo of the figures we already had. I was fine with that with the 25th anniversary line, but I think we do need to get away from that a little bit. Now, I don't want characters to look radically different from their vintage counterparts, but I want to be able to recognize the character, but I'm happy and I'm actually glad they gave it a little bit of modern flair. Not only does it make me excited, because I don't feel like I'm just buying the exact same toy I already have, 2 or 3 times over, just in a different scale, but also to make it a little more contemporary, that you might actually attract the attention of some kids or something, and doesn't look like some dated military figure that the dads would have played with. This actually looks like, this could be a character right out of Fortnite or something, and that might make a kid buy it, which is good for the brand. So as for the design, I don't love the head, partly because of the full beard. Most versions of Roadblock, including versions 1, 2, and 3 from the vintage line, which were the ones that I had as a kid, he always just had a mustache. There you see he's got a little goatee. It wasn't really until The Rock came along, and there you see he's got the full goatee. So this figure here with the full beard, it's not really what I associate with Roadblock. I would prefer just a mustache, but that's a small detail. Guys can grow beards, obviously, so I don't really have a problem with that. I think maybe I would rather him have maybe just a different expression on his face, because this one isn't entirely neutral, but it doesn't really look angry. I don't know, it kind of looks maybe just a little pouty to me. So I almost wish they gave him a bit more of a snarl, made him a little angrier, or maybe just kept him a little more neutral. Either way, I like the head sculpt, I just don't love it. Now the design of the vest, like you can see, very similar to the vintage one, so I like the homage to that. The fact that they modernized it a little bit, I'm fine with. I like the fact that he's got the removable knife there and everything, that's cool. Not much to see on the back. Now, instead of having a t-shirt like this guy here, you can clearly see he had a white t-shirt on under his vest. This guy does not have anything on under his vest. There's no sleeves there. You can see here that he's bare-chested under there. The vest is not removable, although I have seen in other videos somebody has actually sliced it and taken it off. And he's got like a good sculpted muscular chest under there. So it's kind of a waste that you can't see it on this figure. However, as we already mentioned, we're probably going to get Gung Ho, who is another big bare-chested guy in Wave 2. So I'm sure they'll probably use the same body for Gung Ho. Now he's got the gloves. Now Roadblock has always had gloves. This one had black. Version 1 had green. This guy's got something different, so they're kind of gray with red and a little bit of black on there. So they look pretty cool. One thing that's new for this guy, Roadblock, the standard Roadblock never had any tattoos. It wasn't until Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson played him where you could actually see tattoos on Roadblock. So I guess that's now Roadblock's thing. Now, mind you, he doesn't have the big tribal thing that The Rock does, but he's got this lion on there, and it's actually pretty detailed. I don't know if you can see that on there, but it's a big, like, roaring lion face, and it looks pretty cool. I like it. Now, as far as the lower half, this is another thing I've seen a lot of people kind of beefing about online, is they don't like the gold highlights. And I'll be honest, I don't necessarily love them either, but I don't mind them. And some of the other figures have gold on them too, so it adds a little consistency throughout the team. But otherwise, like, so the pants aren't gray, so they don't match up exactly with this figure, but again, that's fine. I don't need an exact replica. It's kind of like a brownish, greenish gray. It's hard to exactly pinpoint what's going on there. And then the boots, black boots with kind of gold and red shin guards, and one gold knee pad. So as far as articulation goes, they've got lots. So legs can be spread out, forward, backward. You see there's a swivel there, so you can turn there. His knees are double jointed, so you can get a good range of motion on the knee. He's also articulated, let me see, at the boot. Yep, so you can twist him there. And then he's also articulated at the ankle. He's got a lot of movement there. So you can get a lot of good poses. He's articulated at the waist. Let me get the gun out of his hand here for a second. Now he does have a crunch in the middle of the torso, but you can't really utilize that because of the vest. As far as his arms go, he's got good movement there, and there's also a butterfly joint. You see that piece there, so you can move his arms kind of forward and backwards. Again, the vest hinders that a little bit on this figure. He's got double jointed elbows, just like his knee. So you can get a good range of motion on the arm there. He swivels at the wrist. He's also got a joint at the wrist that allows him to hold that gun the way I had him displayed a moment ago. And then the head, he's got a joint there as well as a swivel. So yeah, lots of movement there. Really cool. He's a lot of fun to play with. He's got a lot of detail. He's a good, solid, sturdy figure. I think this guy's great, and he's actually my least favorite figure of the line. So if this is the worst of the bunch, we're starting off pretty good. So let's move on to figure number 2. So figure number 2 is Snake Eyes. Now, when Snake Eyes was introduced in the very first wave of vintage G.I. Joe figures back in 1982, he was the G.I. Joe Commando. So here is the original 1982 Snake Eyes. Now, he was a solid black figure with no paint apps whatsoever. And, you know, that was actually done as a cost-saving measure by Hasbro, but it made him, like, really cool and pretty much every kid's favorite character. Now, you'll notice on mine here, he's got blue arms. That's because way back in the day, I broke my Snake Eyes' thumbs off, and I had an extra Cobra Commander figure, so I took Cobra Commander's arms, put them in here, and painted them black. And for a while, that looked pretty good, but over the last 30 years or so, a lot of the black is worn off. So now my vintage Snake Eyes has pretty blue arms. But originally, it was all black, and for accessories, he came with this kind of satchel here of explosives, and also had an Uzi, which I have misplaced. So you'll notice here, this version of Snake Eyes, if you're just a casual G.I. Joe fan, this might not look that familiar to you because he's got these kind of goggles, and you know, it's not that iconic visor look that a lot of people associate with Snake Eyes. And that's because that didn't come until version 2 of Snake Eyes in 1985, I believe. And that version also was the first to introduce Snake Eyes' wolf sidekick, Timber. So I have that figure, but I forgot to haul it out here. But anyway, if we take a look at the modern interpretations of these figures, this is the 2007 25th anniversary version of Snake Eyes based on his commando look. So you see there, he's got the goggles rather than the visor. He's got the satchel of explosives. And yeah, this one here, rather than being a stark solid black, he's actually kind of more of a matte black, almost a gray. You can see the much darker black on the visor there. He's got a little bit of paint on his explosive bag there. So yeah, I think this is a pretty cool figure, and it does a pretty good job of recreating the vintage guy. Here, I'll just shimmy him out of the way for now. And then the next Snake Eyes we got in the modern era was a recreation of the 85 Ninja Snake Eyes. So this is when they introduced the ninja background into Snake Eyes. He didn't have that right from the get-go. So now he's got a ninja sword, and he's got this visor as well as his classic Uzi. So this figure here was pretty cool as well. And this is a lot of people's preferred version of Snake Eyes. I honestly don't have a favorite. I love both of them. I really love the Commando one because that was one of the first G.I. Joes I ever had. And it's a really cool... God damn it. Anyway, it's a really cool figure. But, you know, I do love this ninja look too. The visor is really great. And they kind of perfected that figure. Again, some of these 25th anniversary figures weren't great. Hasbro was trying out this new style of figure. But by the end of the line, they made some really incredible figures in this scale. And you see here, this Snake Eyes is just fantastic. It's a little dusty. And he actually came with two heads. So right now I have him displayed with his commando head, but you could display him with his ninja head too with the visor. But you see here, he's just loaded up with gear and really cool. He's got his couple of swords there sheathed on his back. He's got the Uzi, got the gun with silencer, I believe, on the side of his leg. So yeah, that's probably the best figure of Snake Eyes that we ever got. And another figure I want to bring in here before we start talking about the classified Snake Eyes is this. So this is Snake Eyes' look from the second live-action movie, G.I. Joe Retaliation. So with this figure, and this one's kind of hard to tell because they can't put that much detail in a figure this small, but I do have a 12-inch version of this figure where you can really see all the detail. And yeah, they added some different layers to his mask, some different textures. They kind of made his armor a little more elaborate. You see they added a little bit of extra color to him there. And yeah, this is a pretty cool look for Snake Eyes too. It looked a lot better than his look in the first live-action movie. So now let's take a look at the classified figure. So this one here, I think borrows heavily from the G.I. Joe Retaliation look, which is why I pointed that one out. Primarily because of the way the helmet looks. So before it kind of looked like there was one piece with a visor in like 1985 and so on. But now after Retaliation, it kind of looks like there's three separate pieces. Like there's this helmet piece, then there's this other more kind of indented piece here, and then there's the visor there. And I think it's a really cool look. It's kind of a more realistic look. And yeah, I think they've done a really good job of recreating it here. It looks really good all in the solid black. Now, as far as the body, again, there's some familiarity with the Retaliation look here, I feel, with these straps here on the shoulder. And the way he's got the, so see, he's got his backpack here on the back that plugs in the back. Then the sheath, I think you could just plug that directly into his back if you wanted to. But there's also a hole on the side of the backpack, so you can plug the sheath in there, which is pretty cool. And the sword will just slide in there. So the pistol and the silencer, they can both be stored on his leg there. And then, yeah, then he's got this gun here. And it's also got a little peg on the side, which is pretty cool. So if he wasn't using this, you could plug that into the backpack as well. And yeah, really great. And also the knife, it doesn't fit that well into here. I don't know what's going on there, because I actually saw somebody else review this figure and complain about the same thing. It looks like it should slide right down to the hilt, but it kind of gets stuck there. Well, that's a minor complaint. And yes, by the way, before you comment, I have tried it both ways. Either way, it doesn't quite fit. So yeah, anyway, I love the look of this figure. One other minor thing I'll point out that I saw another reviewer complain about is these grenades. Apparently these grenades are kind of more World War II era, these pineapple-shaped grenades, and that's not what a modern soldier would have. But I guess that would only bother you if you really know your military ordnance and whatnot. I don't care. If I was to draw a grenade today, that's what I would draw, so that's news to me that they don't throw those grenades anymore. But anyway, let's take a look at the articulation a little bit. So first I'm going to take the sword out of his hand here. And we'll just slide that down into the sheath there. And then he's got the same articulation as Roadblock, essentially. The double jointed elbows, swivel, and articulation at the wrist. Then he's got the butterfly joint on his shoulders there. The head, a lot of good movement there. So not only is he articulated here with the joint, but also here. So his neck can move forward and his head can move as well. So there you see the kind of the torso crunch joint that I couldn't show you on Roadblock. So that gives them a good range of motion to go forward and backward. And then, yeah, swivel there at the thigh, swivel at the boot, articulated the ankle, double jointed knee. Yeah, I'm not going to go over all that with every single figure because I think they pretty much all have the same articulation. But it works really great. They're really posable. Like I said, they're really solid. Although one thing I will say, one of my complaints that's not just me regurgitating what somebody else has said, but probably my only real genuine complaint, is that Hasbro has been making really nice 6-inch figures in Marvel Legends for a while now. And, 6-inch Star Wars Black Series for quite a while now. And my biggest problem with both of those waves is that they're always falling over. And some of them don't have foot pegs. These guys do. You see they have little holes in their feet. I wish to God that they made them display bases like these figures here. You see they've got little bases with their name on it, and it makes it much easier for those figures to stand up. All those figures you always see in the background of my video, they hardly ever fall over because they've all got their little display bases. Whereas my Star Wars Black Series, you can see some of them over there. That Stormtrooper, for example, I've got little stick tack under his feet to help him stand up, but they still end up falling forward, falling backwards. I find them on the floor all the time. They knock each other down like dominoes. It's very frustrating. So the fact that Hasbro has now launched another 6-inch line, the really great figures, I think with the sculpting and the accessories and the articulation, these are probably the best out of all three lines. I think these are superior to both Black Series and Marvel Legends. I just wish they gave us display bases. This is wave 1. It would have been a great place to start off. That way I wouldn't have to worry about these things toppling over on my shelf. But yeah, they didn't give us display bases, which is a huge bummer. But anyway, the figures are awesome. I really like the look of this guy. Ton of detail. Really cool. And I'm excited to get this figure over again once my exclusive version ships. And I'll be able to do a comparison for you guys. But like I said, it's the same figure, just with some added colors. Some grays, some silvers, some browns. But I am glad. When that was the only version of Snake Eyes that had been revealed, I think a lot of people were a little bummed that there wasn't a solid black version. So I'm glad that's what we got here. Now, I guess before I go, I should mention he's not completely solid black. He does have some silver on his buckles. He's got the red Arashikaji Ninja logo there on his belt. He's also got it right there. He's got it on his sheath of his sword. And one thing that seems a little odd is this little red speck on his head. It seems a little out of place, and it's not established in any other figure or movie or comic book that I'm aware of. So I don't mind any of this other stuff. I'm glad it kind of breaks up the figure and adds a little realism. It seems a little silly that every single buckle and snap on this guy would be jet black, so it makes sense that there's some silvers and some reds. But yeah, that little red on the head, I don't love it, but it's so kind of small. I don't really mind it either, but it does seem like an odd choice. I wonder why they did that. But yeah, Snake Eyes is definitely one of my favorites. It's a really solid figure. So now let's take a look at figure number 3. So this is Destro. So this is, again, the only villain that we got in Wave 1, which seems like kind of an odd choice. I would have thought maybe they'd give us 2 villains and 3 good guys. But no matter, Destro's a pretty good start. Destro was originally released in 1983. Let me bring him out here. So here is the original Destro. And you see here what was cool about him is he had this chrome reflective head. And he has a backpack here. This is a reproduction. The original one was black. and it opened up, and you see he's got some various weapons and stuff in there. It's supposed to stay closed, but the clasp is... Oh, there we go. It often pops open. Anyway, so there's Destro. Now, everybody knows that G.I. Joe's main enemy is Cobra. Now, Destro isn't really a member of Cobra. He hangs out with them all the time, but he's actually an arms dealer who sells his weapons to Cobra. And he leads his own organization called Mars. So, yeah, independent of Cobra. So, again, that's kind of why it's a little odd that they went with him for the first villain. I would have thought maybe Cobra Commander or Storm Shadow, but I'm sure we'll get them soon enough. But anyway, Destro here, great figure in 1983. Loved that one. And it wasn't until the second version of Destro, which I don't have, but it was released in 1988, and it kind of elaborated on Destro's background. So not only did he run Mars as a weapons manufacturer, but he had his own army known as the Iron Grenadiers, and they all kind of wore his color scheme of black, red, and you can actually, if I move these figures for a second, maybe my background will come into focus, you can actually see that middle shelf of G.I. Joes. I've got a lot of kind of modern era Iron Grenadiers there right behind me. So those are a lot of Destro's troopers. And that hole that you'll notice in the shelf, that's because I plucked a Destro out of there to show you. So that is the 83 Destro. And when the 25th anniversary line started, we got an updated version of Destro. So here we go. So you can see there, that's a nice homage to that figure. You know, other than the gray boots, they changed up his gloves a little bit. It's a pretty good homage to that. He's got the open chest with the big red collar. He's got the red amulet. The vintage figure had this kind of like missile launcher on his wrist, and you know this guy still has the missile launchers there. So yeah, a really well done version of this figure. And I do have the modern version of the 88 version, so this was kind of what Destro version 2 looked like. It was a little more regal, so he had the gold reflective head, and he's got the sword, no longer with the open chest, but he had this cloth cape. So yeah, that's kind of Destro at his fanciest. So those are Destro's two most iconic looks, although Destro has had a whole bunch of other looks since. I don't think any of them have come as close. Like here's a weird one from the modern era. The red and the blue and this kind of scarf around his neck. This one is actually from the G.I. Joe movie line, though he didn't wear this in the movie. But this is kind of hints of like a Nazi uniform almost. That's what I see there. So that's pretty cool. I've actually got a weird Destro from a previous line of G.I. Joes, which weren't quite 6 inches. These guys are more like 7 or 8 inches. So this is Destro from Sigma 6. And you'll see he's still got the reflective head. He's still got the amulet around his neck. These were kind of weird figures. I didn't collect these. Somebody bought me this as a gift. But yeah, again, just to show you that here's Destro in purple. So he wasn't always wearing the same thing. And then, even though this figure here is pretty good, it's a pretty good reproduction of the 1983 original, I think Hasbro really nailed this look right at the end of the modern era when they gave us this figure. So this guy here, it's hard to see the detail on his head, but there's a lot of nice sculpted detail. It's a very angular look in the face, which actually really matches the packaging art from the vintage figure. Again, big red collar, open chest, medallion around his neck, the black and the red you see there. The boots and the gloves are actually closer to the vintage figure than even this one was. And he's still got the missile launchers on his wrist. So this is a solid figure, and he's also really tall. You'll even see compared to this figure. So it made him a really imposing figure. So this is by far my favorite Destro figure. At least it was, but now I think this guy is probably my new favorite Destro figure. So the thing about this figure is when this figure was revealed, I think a lot of people had a sigh of relief because the first ones we saw was Roadblock, Duke, and Scarlet, and a lot of people didn't like the fact that they didn't have their iconic look from the 80s. They were kind of more modernized, and that bothered a lot of people. So a lot of people were happy with this Destro because it is so close to the vintage look for Destro. And I like that, but at the same time, I'm almost a little disappointed. As I mentioned, I don't really need just blown up versions of the vintage figures because we've already done that. That's what the modern era 25th anniversary style figures were all about, to give us kind of modern articulation, modern sculpting on these figures. So I don't really need this figure again, just 2 inches taller. But that's basically what I've gotten here. But it's hard to complain because this figure is done so well and it looks so great. And they have added just a little bit of modern flair. For example, this sculpting with the gray on his shoulders here and stuff that breaks up the color a little bit. But all the iconic looks are there. He's got the silver helmet, open chest with the gold medallion around there. He's got the red missile launchers on his wrist. So yeah, very close to the vintage look. Now, I think the silver paint they used on here, it doesn't pick up very well because the camera is kind of glaring off it, but it looks really nice. It has a very nice metallic-y sheen to it. But it's not reflective chrome like these figures are. I would kind of have preferred, I think, to go with the reflective chrome. Again, this figure has that as well, so you can actually see your reflection in it if you get up close enough, but not on this one here. However, this figure here, which I just said was my favorite, it also doesn't have a reflective head, so it's closer to this guy in just a nice silver paint job. So what can I say about this figure? So for accessories, he's got this gun, which is pretty cool looking. It's got some red paint apps there. Then he's got this piece here is kind of soft rubber, and you can kind of shimmy it around on his leg, but that's where you can holster his little gold pistol. So that fits in there nice and snug. And then he's got a suitcase. So just like the vintage figure had the backpack that popped open, a lot of later versions of Destro came with some version of a suitcase. It often had money and weapons in it, which makes sense since he's an arms dealer. So this one here, I actually kind of wish they'd provided a little bit more detail than what we got. So you see you got the painted Cobra logo there, black Cobra logo there. And it does open up, but nothing removable in there. But here you see some kind of badly sculpted money. It would have been nice to have some design on there. And in here, I guess it's like a bit of a laptop. But it would have been nice to have an extra gun or something in there. So I'm a little disappointed with the suitcase, but it is a cool accessory nonetheless. And it fits in his hand pretty well. And yeah, articulation, same as everybody else. It's really great. He feels really nice. He looks really good. Yeah, I'm really happy with this Destro. I'll be looking forward to when we eventually get this version, because I'm sure that'll look really cool in the 6-inch scale as well. But for now, yeah, this is an awesome Destro. And yeah, very happy with him. Another highlight of the line. All right, so let's take a look at figure number 4. So this is Duke. And he is the G.I. Joe like field commander. And so he was first introduced in 1983. And here you see the 83 Duke with all of his accessories. So he's got a backpack, machine gun, binoculars that go around his neck. The only thing I'm missing here is his removable helmet. But I prefer Duke without the helmet because he was heavily featured in the cartoons and he never wore his helmet in there. He was always showing off his blonde hair. Duke has never been a character that I've liked very much. He's arguably the main character of G.I. Joe, especially in the cartoons, because as much as everybody loves Snake Eyes doesn't talk, so that doesn't make for a very interesting cartoon character. So Snake Eyes had a lot more to do in the comic books, but Duke was prominent in the comic books and very prominent in the cartoon. So this figure here, I don't know, I never loved it. Like, he's got this smile on his face, which is maybe a little weird, you know, when he's in combat and you get this big smirk on his face. But Duke was just, I always found him to be kind of a boring figure. I don't know, like, he's okay. I just never loved him. Never one of my favorite characters. And there was a bunch of versions of Duke in the vintage line, including a repaint of this figure in Tiger Force colors. But this look here with the kind of sandy colored shirt with the green military pants, That is the iconic look for Duke. And so that's the look we got in the modern era. In 2007, they rolled out this figure here. And it didn't do anything more to make me a Duke fan. This was, probably one of the least well-received figures of the modern line. Not only, like, his head's kind of too small, the proportions are a little weird, and he's got these awful, what became known as Duke arms, because they kept reusing these on so many figures. Like, rather than have a cut at the wrist, it's just, it's in an awkward place, kind of mid-arm, and not only does it look bad, but it just makes for odd posing, and yet, so I didn't like this figure, but I didn't care that much because I never liked Duke all that much to begin with. Now, we did get some better versions of Duke down the line. Like, this is a version of Duke that came out pretty much near the end of the line. But he's got a much better head sculpt. It's maybe a little hard to see the detail there with the light flashing on it. And you can see it's kind of an homage to his classic look. He's got the green pants and the kind of yellow shirt. But rather than the kind of rolled up sleeves, he's got full sleeves there, and he's got this kind of tactical vest. So it's an okay update, but I wouldn't exactly call it an homage or a reproduction of the vintage look. I think a lot of fans were disappointed we never got a really nice update of his vintage classic look. Now, we did get a whole bunch of other Dukes, especially when the movie came out, and we got all these Channing Tatum versions of Duke, just like we got all those rock versions of Roadblock. So there you go. I don't know how much that looks like Channing Tatum, but yeah, we got a lot of these things. So I've got a bunch of those. Now, probably my favorite version of Duke was based on the cartoon. It's escaping me now. Was it G.I. Joe Renegades? I don't know. But this figure here, not only has it got a really good head sculpt, again, the light kind of glares and you can't make out all the detail on his head sculpt, but he doesn't have that goofy smile anymore. It's like a serious face, and just really nice military uniform, and it's close to the original, but it just makes them a little bit more interesting. So this is a version of Duke I can actually get behind. So this has been my favorite version of Duke up until now, probably, because this is a really cool version of Duke. If this is the Duke we got back then, I would have been a fan from day one. This one, surprisingly, is maybe my favorite of Wave 1. And if you'd asked me beforehand, if you told me these were the 5 characters we were getting, I would have told you Duke would be my least favorite, just because I don't really care for the character. But that might be why I like this figure so much, because he's probably the most improved. Like, I knew I would love Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is inherently cool. He wears all black. He's a ninja. He's commando. So yeah, the Snake Eyes is great, but he was supposed to be great. Duke, I didn't really expect to like, but he looks really good. Like, I love this face sculpt. It's got personality. Like, he looks like a real guy. He's got this scar on his face that runs across his eyebrow. The way his hair is sculpted looks really good. So you can see that it's got he's kind of got like a fade here. It looks very realistic and very contemporary. And yeah, I just like it a lot. And then the uniform, it's very close to the vintage uniform in that he's got the kind of mustardy yellow shirt with the rolled up sleeves. He doesn't have green pants. Well, I guess these are green. Not quite the same color as the vintage figure, and there's a lot more going on with these pants. But you can definitely tell he's inspired by the vintage figure, but they modernized him, and I think it looks really cool. I like it a lot. The gloves, so he's got cool little brown gloves with some red highlights. He's got this orange wristwatch. What else can we talk about? Backpack, so this just plugs in and out of his back, like so. And it's similar to the one he had back in the day with the shovel in the background, except this one's got a little bit more detail and the shovel's actually colored, which is nice. Now, there was one accessory in the package where I wasn't sure what it was. So you see here's his rifle. And there's multiple paint apps on there. It's silver with gold and blue, so I think that's a really cool gun. And again, it's got kind of a futuristic quality, matches up with Roadblocks, but looks a little more real world. And I like that one quite a bit. And then he's also got a little pistol, which has also got paint apps. Again, that's nice because most vintage G.I. Joe figures were just one solid color. So it's nice to get them with the one or two paint apps on them, so that fits in snug there. So yeah, the accessory, which I didn't know what it was, it's right here. It plugs into his belt, which is nice. And it's actually like a kind of modern pair of binoculars. I don't think you'd call it binoculars anymore. I don't know quite what you'd describe that as, but that's pretty cool since the vintage Duke way back in '83 came with binoculars. So they've kind of updated that accessory for this figure. I like that a lot. So yeah, a lot of nice detail in the sculpt. Some people don't care for these gold shin guards, just like on Roadblock. But again, that's what I'm talking about with tying the team together. If I grab Roadblock again here, you can see how they're not quite the same. But those gold highlights on the knee pads and the shin guards, it kind of makes them look a little bit more like a cohesive unit. So I like that. And yeah, everything else here, like so all these belts and straps, they're all separate pieces, so they move around. The articulation, I'm not going to bother talking about again because he's got all the same great articulation as everybody else. Yeah, I think this is a really cool figure. I like it a lot. And there's a decent chance any one of these 5 figures could be on my best of the year list. But as of right now, I think if I had to only put one G.I. Joe on my best of list, it would probably be Duke. And lastly, we're going to take a look at figure number 5. So that is Scarlett. So the only female in the line thus far. So Scarlett was first introduced in the very first wave of Real American Hero G.I. Joe figures back in 1982. And here is that figure. So she has seen better days. She's kind of yellowed a little bit over the years, but at least she's still in one piece. You can see both of her thumbs are broken off. Her crotch is broken off. So yeah, she's in rough shape. But yeah, so here's the figure. She had a crossbow, which she can't hold anymore because of her fingers. One annoying thing about this figure, so her knees are really loose, so it's hard to get her to stand up. But unlike all the other figures I've showed you, she does not have holes in her feet. And I don't know if that's because she's kind of got heels a little bit, just barely. But yeah, she didn't have holes in her feet, so that's really frustrating because you can never put her on a display stand, and a lot of the vehicles have little pegs so you can put extra Joes hanging onto the sides and the back of vehicles. You could never do that with Scarlet, which was always really annoying. So Scarlet has always been a prominent character of G.I. Joe, whether it be in the comic books, the cartoons, the movies. So she's one of the main Joes. And I've always liked Scarlet. But one thing that kind of bummed me out about the figure is that I never found, just wasn't very pretty. Because in the cartoons and the comic books, she had like long flowing red hair. But this figure, it's kind of manly. Like, they could have given her long hair. They could have maybe given her a ponytail. Or even given some indication that she had a ponytail in her, going into her shirt or something. But here it just looks like she's got really short, cropped red hair. Which isn't bad. And honestly, looking at this figure now, it's not even as bad as I remember it. But, she was much prettier in the comic books and the cartoons. And I was kind of bummed that this figure didn't quite match up with that. And in later versions of Scarlet in the vintage line, like her Ninja Force figure, they did give her longer hair. But I don't think they ever really made a pretty Scarlet figure. They struggled with that. And so then when the modern era of G.I. Joe started, and then we were given an update of this figure, you'd think we might get a prettier figure, but I think Scarlet was one of the worst updates in the modern line. So I know it's a little hard for you to make out the detail on her face because of the light shining in there. But the face is okay. It's just a little bland. But the body, it's kind of weirdly proportioned. And her outfit, I don't know what she was wearing. Because in 1982, most of the G.I. Joe figures were very militaristic. They mostly wore olive green. But she had this kind of weird, these knee-high boots and throwing stars on her glove there. And it was kind of like a tight blue leotard underneath this kind of almost bathing suit-like piece here. It was kind of odd looking. And you could kind of forgive that maybe in 1982. I'm just going to lay her down over here. But for this one here, a modern figure, it kind of points out how silly an outfit it is. And it looks almost more like something a superhero would wear than, somebody in the military here. But at least with this figure here, you see they've got her long hair, which is nice. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this figure. And they did a bunch of other Scarlets in the modern era. I don't think they ever quite nailed one. I don't have any that I think are particularly great. Even when the movie line came out, a lot of the movie figures were really nice. So this is the Scarlet based on the actress Rachel Nichols' likeness. Again, I know she's all washed out there, but I don't think they did a good job really capturing her look. And maybe even just painting her lips or something a different color would make this figure seem a little bit more attractive. But she just seems a little bland. My favorite Scarlet up to this point is this one here. It's based on the G.I. Joe Renegades cartoon. And again, I don't think the face is very attractive on this one, but I like the look because it's an homage to her classic look, but it's a little bit more realistic. So, she doesn't really have a bathing suit looking thing or a onesie anymore. It's a really cool look, but the face, if anything, is actually kind of a little manly on this figure, I find. So, there have been a few good Scarlets, but I don't think they've made a great Scarlet figure. Until now, I think this is a great Scarlet figure. It's not perfect. There's some design elements in here that I don't particularly love. This shoulder pad, which just kind of sticks up on one arm. It seems a little odd and out of place. But we'll get to all that later. First, I want to talk about the head sculpt. It's really nice. It's got this nice flowing hair. She's actually got a pretty face. They've given her some eyeshadow and some lipstick. And what is really amazing, I don't know if you can see that there, but she's actually got freckles on her face. She's got earrings. It's a pretty head design. And that's just kind of nice to see, because that's always how she was portrayed in the comics and the cartoons. So it's nice to finally see that. Now, I do have a little bit of a gripe here. My particular figure seems to have a little schmutz on the top of her head there. I don't know if it's just I might be able to scrape that off, but it might be a paint issue. I don't really want to risk scratching off any of the orange paint, but that's a minor issue and probably specific to just me. I do like how she's got two tones in her hair. So she's got some blonde there right over the front of her face. She's got kind of a blonde highlight there, and it looks really good. Some people might have a problem with it actually being a little too girly and not looking military enough, but I think it's about time that we got a Scarlet that looks nice. And then the outfit. This outfit is also kind of superhero-y. It's maybe a little busy, but I think it looks cool. And again, you've got the gold shin guards, which ties her in with Duke and Roadblock, so we've got some nice consistency there. And then she's got gold throughout, along with red, yellow, blue, silver, purple, gray. So that's what I mean. There's a lot going on here, but I think it works. For accessories, so I pointed out that she's got, we'll start with her crossbow. That's her most iconic weapon. I wish they just sculpted this as one piece. Since I opened this figure up, this gun has come apart on me multiple times. So you see this piece, it just falls apart. So you can peg this into there and it just kind of rests in place. But I don't know why they didn't just give us that in one piece. It doesn't really add anything to have that piece. I might even just lose that altogether and just keep it as a pistol. So she has the 3 knives. So one of the knives can be sheathed here in her bandolier. I've got one knife in her hand, and then the other one, this is kind of odd. So she's got a backpack with a quiver of arrows, and it's got this kind of wide slot there that looks like it's intended to put some arrows or something in there. Maybe her back thing fits in there. I don't know. I guess you could do that. But she didn't come with anything to really put in there. So I just put the extra knife just kind of in there. It doesn't really fit. It's kind of odd because there's so much room. But I was really surprised that I thought this would have been a sheath where you could put a knife, but it's not. I thought maybe she'd have something on the side of her boot, but she doesn't. So yeah, they gave her 3 knives, but only one sheath to put one in. So that's a little strange. Otherwise, so articulation-wise, she's got everything that you've seen on the other figures. Double jointed knees, swivels there on her ankles, good head articulation there. She's got a joint at the head and at the neck. Yeah, no complaints. You can get these figures in lots of nice poses. There you'll see she's got some throwing stars on her arm, so that's an homage to the vintage figure, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think this is the best Scarlet figure we've got in any format. I'm all for them making another version, maybe a little, toned down a little bit. I'd like this figure in some more militaristic colors as well, or maybe colors a little closer to, the vintage figure. But yeah, this one is really nice. And yeah, another winner. This whole line, all 5 figures are really nice. And so there you go. So that is wave 1 of G.I. Joe Classified, the new 6-inch line from Hasbro. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and please leave me questions, comments below. I always enjoy talking to you guys. So yeah, much appreciated. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will be back soon with another video because I also got a bunch of other cool toys that I'm eager to tell you about. So until then, ciao.